So some people ask the question, so Ron, what difference does it make? We want to, make disciples and plant churches. What difference does it make if they're nomads? Well, I've been doing this long enough. Sometimes I forget that not everybody sees things the way I do. But after walking with nomads for all these years, 35 years, just over 30 years, for walking with nomads for just over 30 years, nomads have taught me how to see the Bible different. I see the Bible different now. I see nomads on every page of Scripture. What? Yeah, actually, I think so. For example, can you tell me a positive example of somebody in the Bible who was not a nomad? Think about that for a while. I've had a few people able to give me the name of somebody who's a positive role model or a positive example from the Bible who was not a nomad. See if you can do that. Go ahead, I'm waiting. And think about it? Anybody? Put some names in the comments of people you think that are nomads. Okay. I'm going to put a challenge out there too. Give me a passage of Scripture, a chapter or a page. And you can pull it out random and put it in the comment, or you can even look through and see if you can find a page or a chapter in the Bible, anywhere from Genesis to Revelation, that does not have something, a special way to see it from a nomadic perspective. And then in a future episode, I'll cover that chapter. And if I don't find relevance in that particular page or chapter to see things different from a nomadic perspective, I'll confess. I think I'm going to be able to find. I haven't really tested this myself, but I have found so many places so far that it makes a difference how you look at it from a nomadic perspective. And I was talking on this with a group of people. Some of them were nomads themselves, and some had been working with nomads for many years. And they told me during and afterwards that this is the first time they had seen Scripture from that perspective. So, with that in mind, let's try an example. Okay, let's go to the beginning of the Bible. Let's look at Genesis chapter 4. We've got the story of Cain and Abel. You remember that Adam and Eve had just kind of been expelled from the garden after their sin, and then time goes and they have a couple of children, and so one's Cain and one's Abel. And how does the story go? It mentions that Abel decided to be a shepherd and keep sheep and maybe other livestock, and Cain he decided to be a farmer, a grain farmer, some kind of plantation he was going to set up. Well, from a nomadic perspective, already right at that point in the story, we already know there's trouble. There's tension in the story for nomads because for the most part, people think of farmers as being settled people, and they've got green crops. And what do sheep like to eat? Green crops. So how do you keep the sheep out of Cain's farm? As soon as that's mentioned, in many areas, there's already tension between nomads and non-nomads, between animal, especially livestock owners, agro-pastoralists, and those who are grain farmers and vegetable farmers. There's going to be tension. Why? If they're living close together, you can't keep the sheep out of the farmland. So there's just going to be tension between them. as the story goes, then the story just keeps on building for nomads. Now, I'm not saying necessarily that Cain wasn't a nomad. The fact that he was born into a nomadic family, of course, Adam and Eve were nomads. What? You didn't know that? Oh, they lived in the garden. We don't know how big the garden was. I can talk about that in a different episode, but they were basically hunter-gatherers. And there's no mention of a specific house that they lived in. They roamed throughout the garden and took care of it as God had designed them to do. So, when they come out, you don't stop being a nomad just by settling down. Your whole life history, your heritage, has been about mobility. That doesn't stop just because you buy a house and maybe some land and put some crops in the ground. No, that nomadic mindset continues to be there. So Cain was also still a nomad. But he, and this is very common among agro-pastoralist people. You have some of the people of the clan or tribe who are focused on the agriculture, the farming part, the cropland. And you've got other people like Abel who are taking care of the livestock. And by the way, about livestock, especially in particular sheep, you've got to keep them moving. Sheep will just, if you keep them in one spot, they'll eat the grass and the roots, everything right down through the dirt. And then there won't be anything to grow next year. So you've got to keep the sheep moving. Otherwise, they'll turn it into a desert land. If you keep them moving, then they spread the fertilizer also. And their urine provides moisture to arid climates. So they go over one place, they drink, and then they come through. And anyway, outside the garden, I don't think it was necessarily instantly desert. There was, who knows what the climate was like at that point. But it doesn't say that they went out from the garden and suddenly got into a desert area, although that's the way it's pictured a lot of times. No. They're out, they're grazing, he's grazing the animals for the clan. As they go along, there's tension between them. We don't know anything else about tension until it says that Abel brought an offering to God. And the word is a little bit ambiguous. It's a very broad word that can include animal sacrifices for sin offerings, and it can also include grain offerings. So it seems that Abel brought a blood offering with an animal sacrifice, and Cain seems to be bringing a grain offering. I don't want to get too distracted on that point. I could go on. It says in the text that God accepted Abel and his offering, but rejected Cain and his offering. Obviously, there's tension, a great deal of tension building at that point in the story. And God comes to try and calm Cain down and says, "Why are you angry? If you do well, won't you also be accepted?" It's kind of obviously a rhetorical question. There must have been something in Cain's story and history that told him what he should have done. What other examples were there in the text? Okay, well, there was they already had the sacrifice that involved the skinning of an animal in the garden. Obviously, Adam and Eve would have told their kids about what their life was like and how they got expelled from the garden. It just makes sense that they would have told their kids that as they were growing up. So they would have known, hey, also by the example that they're also, as boys, they would have grown up. Seems that they would have naturally grown up with animal skins, wearing animal skins. That seems to be the norm, starting from the garden when God gave them those robes. By the way,